Hello once again, my name is Bob McDavitt from MetBob, and I have been asked to present the weather forecast for Leg 7 of the World ARC Rally across the South Pacific. Leg 7 is from Port Vila in Vanuatu, across the Coral Sea, through the Great Barrier Reef, and on to Mackay on the east coast of Australia. And that's a distance of about 1,200 nautical miles, which will take most of the fleet somewhere between 7 and 9 days to accomplish. And so on today's Met Service large-scale weather map for the South Pacific, as located on metservice.com. This showing here for midday Thursday New Zealand time, 11 a.m. Vanuatu time. And we have a well-defined intertropical convergence zone across the just north of the equator, up to 10 degrees north. In the South Pacific convergence zone is in this area, not very well defined in the streamline analysis. And we have this trough, which is just west of Vanuatu, and it has northeast winds on one side and southerly winds on the other side. Stage left is this anticyclone, which is around about 1,027 hectopascals and is expected to take a path along across the south end of the Coral Sea over the next week or so. Looking at the windy.com satellite imagery from the Japanese satellite as the sun slowly sets in the west, we can see more closely how this squall line is here just west of Vanuatu, and the trough itself belongs to a large sheet of high cloud, which is in fact a jet stream, and once they get the trough into the jet stream, a low will form somewhere in this area during tomorrow. We also have the high, 1,022 hectopascals at present, about to travel east across the Tasman Sea and the South Coral Sea. And so it's been a squally trough out to the west of Vanuatu, which has delayed our departure. If we look at the local forecasts for Port Vila Harbour today, Thursday the 18th of July, we have a northeast wind. That indicates that the trough is out there and still coming. Light showers. And then on Friday, the 19th of July, rain, southeasterly waves, 1 metre swell, and a southwest wind. That's the trough coming through. Finally, on Saturday, the 20th, it's cleared up, mostly sunny, the southeast waves, 1 metre swell, and a southeast wind. Those are the conditions which are just right for departure. However, the adventurous ones of you out there going back to Friday and zooming into 5 p.m, will see that by then the cloud should have cleared off, the waves southeasterly 1 metre, and the wind gone around to southerly. That might be the time, 5 p.m. Friday, for some adventurous. So here we have the weather pattern as seen in my marine expedition program. The timestamp is given in the top left-hand corner, as you can see here. The black lines are ISO. And as usual, the straightest isobar on any weather map is the 1012. That's average atmospheric pressure and it divides the highs, like this one over here, from the lows, like this one over here. So at dawn on Friday, that low to the south of Vanuatu has already formed, according to the models, and should be moving off to the southeast. Also shown on this weather map are the significant swells. The swells are given in significant metres. Remember, you add 50% to convert that to the occasional metres. The colouring and shading gets darker, so this is the 2 metre line here, and here's the 3 metre line here. And the direction of the swell, the primary wave, is given as arrows. So we can see a southwesterly swell rolling in at over 2 metres onto New Caledonia on dawn on Friday. Wind directions are given as barbs of wind. Each barb is worth 10 knots, and they're colour-coded, so the blue ones are nice. Green ones are perfect for sailing, and if there are anything which are becoming dangerous, they start to appear in red. The currents, as you can see down here, are included where they become significant. And the red and yellow shading in this area is rain. And now showing the evolution of that pattern through Expedition Marine. And the time is given in the top left-hand side there. And we can proceed forward in time, like so. So the trough very quickly develops into a low on Friday, and this low travels south towards New Zealand, leaving behind over Vanuatu to Mackay just a quiet southeasterly flow. And by next Sunday, the 21st, there is a high moving across the Coral Sea, Tasman Sea area, and that produces a bit of a squash zone with 4 metre swells up to the north of our path, but not over our path. And by next Friday, we have fairly quiet conditions around the hydrographer's passage for getting to Mackay. So let's start off here now with start from Port Vila at around about 9 a.m. local time on Saturday. By that stage, southeast winds should have set in, and I can slowly progress this animated in time as follows. The yacht itself can be seen travelling slowly westwards, and the timestamp is changing as we go. So here we are midday on. So here is the situation at midday on Sunday, and the waypoint we're heading to is enough to clear to the northeast of the chain of reefs that stretch out northwest of New Caledonia. That's 17 degrees 37 minutes south, 163 degrees east. Moving back, so we can animate forward in time another day or so. And progress looks good. The winds are slowly backing, but we can then turn left anyway and head towards hydrographer's passage. Notice that because we've got that high crossing over the Coral Sea, Tasman Sea area, the squash zone is beginning to form to the north of us, and the winds are slowly increasing. Around about now, which is dawn on Wednesday, there's swells over 3 metres to the north of us, and also a zone of rain, which is also to the north of us. I can go backwards through time now, just to show you how we just kind of miss the worst of all that stuff on Wednesday. See, it's forming now, but we're just to the south of it. And so we continue on our way as we go here on dawn on Thursday. We're south of that place there called Mellish Reef, and we're heading quite nicely to Hydrographer's Passage. Notice that by now, which is on dawn on Friday, we get to the situation where we are approaching Hydrographer's Passage in a slowly decreasing wind and swell. As we go through Hydrographer's Passage on Saturday night, we find that the winds will be against us when we do the turn into them, and I'll just go back and show you that there. And as we go into the Hydrographer's Passage on Saturday night, the winds are still southeasterly, and we have to do a dog leg into them there. I'll probably turn the motor on, and then once we've done the turn, it's all quite straightforward, arriving in Mackay at Sunday afternoon. So in summary, a Saturday morning start, southeasterly 10 knots at the start, builds up to a peak on Wednesday of a southeasterly of 23.5 knots, and then has southeasterlies through Hydrographer's Passage and ends in Mackay on Sunday afternoon. Now let's see what happens if we change that to a late Friday start. In particular, watch what happens to the start wind here. Okay, turning to a late Friday start now. And sure enough, that turns around to be a southwesterly start. But it's probably not too much of a headwind, and the adventurous sailors would love that. Through the trip, we do actually miss out on getting over 20 knots on Wednesday, and the winds are slightly more around to southeast through Hydrographer's Passage, but they still are against us. In fact, we have to motor probably for the last bit of the trip. And we have a new arrival time, which is something like dawn on Sunday. Dawn on Sunday. Finally, let's look at a start on 9 a.m. on Saturday, but this time, once we get past the turning point north of Chesterfield Reef, and here, zoom into that, you can see Chesterfield Reef and a turning point there at approximately 1830 south, 158 east, thereabouts. And then going southwest, and we can go to the Capricorn Corner, the Capricorn Channel at the south end of the Great Barrier Reef. Great Barrier Reef, Capricorn Corner. It avoids a few little islands off here, Danger Ridge and a Cay there, and it offers the advantage that you come inside the reef, out of the swell, and it's a very simple drive to the northwest from Capricorn Channel, northwestwards to here, east of Mackay, and then westwards into Mackay, with no obstructions whatsoever. And who cares if it's a southeasterly, because that's a tailwind. That's a nice way of doing it, indeed. And if you have any questions during the briefing on Friday morning or at any other time on Friday before lunch, then you can call me on 6427 776 2212. That's Bob McDavitt signing off.